Okay. So R1 and R2. Okay. Now when you go into a router, it might be a little bit hard to see, but you get the prompt, all right? You see this prompt here, it's R2 greater than, okay? This is your basic prompt, your standard user prompt, okay? If you want to see what commands you can run, the help file is the question mark. You just do question mark and run through the commands of the help file. So I have, I can disconnect, disable, I can work with connecting to different things, I can use ping command, alright, I can try to terminal to another system, alright, a lot of things I can do. 2 pages worth of commands. Well, that's great. I can do a lot of things, I can show a lot of things, I can kind of play around with stuff. I cannot do one single command to configure the system. I have to be in what is known as privileged exec mode. And also need to be in that mode if I want to get any detailed information from protocols, interfaces, etc. So how I do that is I type in enable at that prompt. My cursor changed to a pound sign. Greater than, standard mode, pound sign, privileged executive mode, or privileged exec mode. Alright? If I want to do any type of command, now if I do the question mark, you can see that I'm going to roll through about, instead of 2 pages, about 4 pages, 3 or 4 pages. Right. A lot of the commands are still the same. I do them in either mode. I have more commands to do in privileged exec mode. Alright, if I want to do a specific command, say I want to look at the startup config or the running config. Alright, if I didn't know what to put after show, I can put show question mark, and these are all the subcommands under the show command. So the question mark is a really, really good command to know that you can put after any command and understand what it can do. Right? Now, here's the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to erase both of these. If I didn't script GNS3, this works in a real router. Maybe virtual routers don't like that. Hard to reset. There we go. While they're booting up, let's kind of go over the topology here. We're going to set up these two routers. We have a serial link, two Ethernet links to two switches. We're going to IP the fast Ethernet ports, serial ports, all right, on each of these networks. We're going to put in a routing protocol called OSPF, so we can get routing between the two LANs. Because when you set up routing, all right, when you set up the two routers and you connect them, well, they'll see each other on this interface. But unless you put in a routing protocol or static route to give the router some information, they will not be able to see each other's local area networks. Good, so it's been completely erased now. Alright, so if I want to get into enable mode and actually be able to configure anything like an IP address on an interface, the routing protocol, an access list, which is what we're going to talk about here next, alright, I need to be able to go into privileged exec mode and then go into some sort of configuration mode. All right, I'm going to configure the system from terminal. All right, so I'm going to change my prompt, and then I can go into interfaces, routing protocols, line protocols, all kinds of other good stuff. All right, a couple of things. Once I go into enable mode, I can do tab completes. So as you saw there, I started typing a command. I just hit tab. Once I get to a certain area that it is unique, I can hit tab and it'll complete the command. It works just like Linux. All right. So I can do that. It will also recognize the command in shortened form. So all I have to do is type in conf space t, for example, and I can get away with just typing in a shortened command. I don't have to type the command all the way out, because after all, network engineers are inherently lazy. We don't like typing a lot. If we wanted to type, we'd be programmers. So anyway, from the local configuration mode, which is where we are now, I can go into routing protocols, interfaces, individual lines, the console line, the auxiliary port line, the virtual terminal lines, or do what they call global commands as well. So in this case, for R1, I need to configure this fast Ethernet port and this serial port. So to get to the interface of a port, I type in interface and then the port number. So as you can see here, F00 is that port. It's short for fast Ethernet 0/0. I don't have to type out fast Ethernet 0/0. I can just type in F0/0 for short. And my prompt changes again, this time to config-if. Okay. From here, I can give the interface an IP address. one quick step. If I ever want to look at the configuration, or if I want to look at the global config, typically what I would have to do is exit all the way back out to privileged exec mode and run the command. Well, somewhere along the lines of iOS 12.3, they put in an interpreter in the command structure that will allow me to run any command from any sub-command area. That interpreter is do, D-O. So if I want to look at the running configuration, or the startup configuration, for example, if I were to type in show run for running config, it's going to tell me invalid input. But if I put the interpreter do in there, and it's in to preempt it, it's going to go through all of the different command sections till it finds show run, and then it's going to execute that command. That. As you can see, Fast Ethernet 00 is currently shut down. It has no IP address whatsoever. Okay, so I'm still in that interface. I'm going to give it an IP address of 10.0.0.1. I also have to give it a subnet mask. If I did a question mark, it would say, what's your IP subnet mask? Well, it's a 24-bit subnet mask, which is 255.255.255.0. If I keep doing a question mark, once CIS is CR, carriage return, that means I can hit enter, it'll take that command. Okay? The interface, I don't know if you noticed it or not, was also shut down, meaning it's off. So even though I put the command in there and gave it an IP address, the interface is logically shut off. It's not going to be able to do anything. So, to take a command out of the configuration, you have to preempt that command with no. So, since in the command configuration, as we see here by the show run command on Ethernet 00, there's my IP address. It's in shutdown mode, or it's shut down. So to take that out, I would put in no space shutdown, or simply no shut for short. Yes.
You can only do that in the config if mode.
I am in config if and config interface mode.
So
I'm actually in the interface. I have to be in the interface.
Okay. So I have to be in the interface.
Yes.
No shut. Okay.
That is correct. Because if I did no shut in global configuration mode, it's not going to turn on anything. It doesn't know what to turn on. Okay? And as you can see here, the line protocol came up and the interface came up. Okay? Now let's do the same thing for serial 10. We have to do one added step for serial 10. Since it's a serial interface, it's not Ethernet, we have many choices for encapsulation types. Encapsulation types are the layer 2 protocol in which is going to be used to bring up signaling between the two devices. Alright, just like Ethernet is a signaling protocol, here on a serial it's going to default to HDLC. Alright. High density link control protocol, or we can change it. We can change to X.25, we can change to PPP, we can change to a lot of different things. So if I exit out of there and I go into interface S1/0, right? And I choose an encapsulation space question mark, I can run HDLC, frame relay, LAPB, which is an X.25 derivative, PPP, SMDS, or X.25 raw. Okay? You're going to run 1 of 2, actually 1 of 3, probably in your lifetime. Frame relay, maybe, although frame relay is dying out. Okay? HDLC, which is what it defaults to. But for best performance, you want to use point-to-point protocol, PPP. PPP is structured in a fashion that is A, more secure, B, it is faster, and C, it is more secure. Yes, I said more secure twice. This is after all a security class. So I'm going to put in encapsulation PPP. From here, I'm going to put in the IP address. So it's IP add. In this case, it is 2.2.2.1. It's a 30-bit subnet mask. A 30-bit subnet mask is 255.255.255.252. I also have to turn this interface on. How do I do that? No shut. You guys are paying attention. Good job. Okay? Now, if you remember before, I got a link up, and I got a line protocol up. Well, I didn't get a line protocol up this time. What do you think that is? Because R2 is not configured yet. Before we go to R2, if I do a show run, I can see that, hey, there's my interfaces, they're configured. Great. Not a problem. But I have two configuration files on my router at all times. I have the running configuration, which is actually what it's executing. And I have a startup configuration, which is where it boots from. Now, if they don't match, that's a problem. Because right now, if this router were to reboot or lose power and come back up, all the changes I just made would be lost. So I have to write those changes to memory. Okay, or save the configuration. How I do that is, if I exit all the way out, I can write to memory, or WR memory, or WR space mem, or, remember, network engineers are inherently lazy, WR works just fine.
So when you do write the WR, that saves it?
That writes the running config to the startup config.
You have to exit all the way out, or can you use the do command?
You can do, yeah, absolutely. You can do WR. Absolutely. Good question. So, oh, I have one more thing to do. Well, actually, I'll come back to R1. Over here on R2, go into enable mode, config terminal mode, interface, fast Ethernet 00. Fast Ethernet 00 is 192.168.0.1. IP add 192.168.0.1. 24-bit subnet mask. And we got to turn it on, no shut. Then on its interface 10. Hey, you see everything came up, right? That's good. Interface S1/0. IP add 2.2.2.2. 30-bit subnet mask, 255.255.255.252. Oh, I forgot something. What did I forget? Encapsulation type. Encapsulation, or I could just type in encap for short. PPP. Now I have to turn it on. How do I turn an interface on?
No shut.
No shut. Now, you get both the interface to come up and the line protocol to come up. Okay? Line protocol in this case, PPP. To get all the way out of configuration mode back to privileged exec mode, I can type exit until I get all the way back, or I can use a hotkey. Hotkey is Control plus the Z key. So if I hold down Control and then hit Z, you see that I go all the way back out. If I do a show run here on R2, see everything that I've done. But if I do a show start, no startup config is present. What do I need to do?
Right mem.
Write mem. don't forget to write to memory. If you forget to write to memory, you can get through 2, 3, 4, 6 hours worth of programming. Go to save your file. Whoops. I didn't write to memory. You go into the GNS3 folder, your project folder, and your config is blank. I will not have any pity on you.
Wait, so if you do write memory, it shows up in
You see right here, C:\temp ACL-lab topology.net. That's a project I started. So if I go there, C temp ACL-lab configs. Uh-oh.
That's what I was calling.
Here's how you overcome that. File, save. See here? And bam. Now if I go back, F5 that, there's my configs.
Oh.
Okay?
Last quarter we had trouble with, we would start over every time. We didn't know how to save it.
Well, now you know. And they're right there. See the IP addresses. Copy and paste back in if you have to. Okay?
How do you copy and paste it back in?
Well, with PuTTY, it's kind of hard. This is why I went to TerraTerm. All right? So, let's do this. Go back to... R1. Okay, so now, what was the question again? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked there.
How do you copy and paste it from that config file that we saved into...
Okay, so, I would do that. So I'm in R1, right? I come up here and just select everything. Right-clicked, copied. Go into configuration mode, right? And then from here, with TerraTerm, I can just paste. It's going to tell me, do you want to copy all of this to your router? Yes, I do. You can do the same thing in PuTTY. There's just no commands. There's no ribbon right here. So you just have to right-click. Okay? One of the reasons I like using TerraTerm. A little bit easier to use. Okay, so next, I'm in R1. So now I can ping 2.2.2.2. 5 bangs, that's good. That means it hit. I sent 5 ICMP echo packets to 2.2.2.2. They were successful. I had a round trip of 20 fastest, 28 normal, and 40 longest microsecond. Now from R1, I want to try to ping 192.168.0.1. That's the LAN over there, right? That's a problem. Why can't I ping the LAN? Anybody have an idea? Why can't I reach that 192 network?
They're different.
What's different?
The fast Ethernet and the whatever that stands for.
That's just physical connection in layer 2. I have no route. R1 has no clue at all where the 192.168 network is. Okay? Here's how I know that. If I look at the routing table, and the way I look at the routing table, is with the command show IP route. So if I show IP route, I can see that I see the 2 network, I see the 10 network. Well, there's no 192.168 network there. I have no clue where it is. Well, I have to do one of 2 things. I either have to tell it how to get to the 192 network via a static IP route, or my network, I can configure a dynamic routing protocol. What I'm going to do is I'm going to configure open shortest path first, which is a link state dynamic routing protocol. Hopefully you learned that from 347. I'm going to set up R1's serial interface and R2 serial interface in area 0. R1's fast Ethernet in area 10, and R2's fast Ethernet in area 192. The big thing you need to know about this is, with OSPF, all of your areas must be adjacent to area 0. On your tests, on your labs, if you have them with OSPF as your routing protocol, I promise you I will not make you do a virtual link. That's a little bit beyond the scope of this class. Right? We're not going to, everything is going to home to area 0 if you have OSPF. Alright? So, how I set up OSPF as a routing protocol is I have to go into router configuration mode. So, how I do that is go back to config T. And to go to router configuration mode, I have to type router. And then the protocol that I'm going to use. In this case, it's OSPF. And then the process ID. You see it's up there, the process ID is process ID 1. So OSPF, router OSPF 1. Then, to do a very simple configuration of OSPF, I just have to tell it what networks it can advertise. What networks it can advertise. So I type in network. For R1, it's going to be 10.0.0.0. Then I have to do a wildcard mask. Wildcard bits. All a wildcard mask is a subnet mask inverted. So if a 24-bit subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, an inverted subnet mask would be what? 0.0.0.255. And last but not least, I have to tell it what area that network is in. So what area is the 10 network in? Area 10. Enter. I have one more network up here, which is the 2 network. So net 2.2.2.0, and its inverted mask, now it's got a 30-bit mask, which is 255.255.255.252. What would the inverted mask be for it? 3.3. 0.0.0.3. Good job. And it's in area 0. Yep. I didn't do enough. There. Now, just kind of watch R1 there. Let's go back to R2. And let's configure the routing protocol here. Router OSPF 1. Its network, now it has the 192